let's talk about the dynamics at play and why this is the case here with our friend, national security analyst and expert and retired Marine intelligence officer, Hal Kempfer. He joins me. Hal, thanks for being with us here. You and I were talking about what the Hamas response might be. We finally got it. It took them a while, frankly, and so Barak Ravid reporting that Israel received it, and yet Hamas rejected the proposal for a hostage deal. This was all laid out by President Biden now almost 2 Fridays ago in his speech there, Hal, at the White House. But Barak Ravid reporting that, Hal, that's breaking. He's with Axios. John Hudson at the Washington Post has this interesting context here. And so I want to read it as well. We're going to put that up in just a moment. So John Hudson says this with this analysis, Hal. He said it should be a major moment on Wednesday tomorrow when the Biden administration issues its own assessment on whether the Hamas response amounts to a minor tweak of Biden's ceasefire proposal or is such a dramatic departure that it can be described as a rejection. He says stay tuned, and he will be in Doha in Qatar with Secretary Blinken. So, Hal, that's where it stands right now. Did you expect this? Are you surprised or no?
Andrew, with all these things, I'm not surprised because it seems like we've been here so many times before. You know, when word first came out earlier today that Qatar and Egypt had received a response from Hamas, and that was it. There was no, the Hamas is accepted or anything like that. I kind of expected that meant that Hamas had not completely agreed to the proposal that was put out there, and of course that's what turned out to be. Hamas seems to have retrenched a little bit. They've kind of gone back to this needs to be a permanent ceasefire, and they want the Israelis to pull completely out of the Gaza Strip. And of course that's not a minor tweak. That's something that Netanyahu has said time and again is not in the cards, and right. So there's major negotiation that has to take place.
Yeah. So, Hal, I think it's worth kind of reiterating and reminding viewers what's in the deal in the first place, because we were talking about this just yesterday, and so we're going to go through these 3 phases here. I'm going to put them up on the screen. This is how President Biden laid them out now almost 2 Fridays ago. So this was phase 1, calling for a complete ceasefire, a withdrawal of Israeli forces from populated areas in Gaza, release of some hostages and some remains of hostages, and Palestinian civilians can return to their homes in Gaza, and a surge in humanitarian aid. So that was phase 1. Now, for phase 2, some weeks would pass realistically for this to be implemented, Hal. In phase 2, a permanent end to hostilities, exchange for the release of the remaining living hostages, and Israeli forces withdraw from Gaza. And I just want to reiterate, phase 1, 2, and 3 don't just happen automatically and subsequently instantaneously. There are weeks in between these phases. And then finally, phase 3, a major reconstruction plan for Gaza, and final remains of hostages are returned to their families. Phase 3, kind of what we've been talking about, Hal, the day after the war here. So we wait for what the United States might say on Hamas's rejection here, but is that still the main sticking point? The permanent end to the war, and they can't agree on that still.
They cannot. And the thing that Israel kind of, and this is what their entire reason for being there, is to remove Hamas from power, to remove Hamas as a threat to Israel. And what Hamas is demanding would essentially return Hamas to power in the Gaza Strip, and that's completely unacceptable to Israel. So that is a big sticking point. That's not something that they're going to get past anytime soon. Of course, Israel would want to withdraw its forces from Gaza eventually. They don't want to be there permanently, but they do want to have certain security guarantees. And there does appear to be a strong desire to maintain that buffer zone that they've been building around the edge of Gaza to provide an extra security layer to prevent something like another October 7th. And then, of course, the question is, what are the other countries in the region going to do? There's been a lot of talk about Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and others possibly putting some of their forces into the Gaza Strip as an interim force while whatever Palestinian government sets up its own security forces. Of course, one of the big issues is that Israel has not accepted the Palestinian Authority as taking charge there. And generally, there's a a lack of enthusiasm and serious doubts that the Palestinian Authority could even step up to this role, let alone do it in a credible manner. So there are a lot of things that have to be worked out. And of course, the fear is if Israel pulls its forces out, that leaves this gap, that leaves this vacuum, and Hamas will fill that vacuum.
Yeah. So what leverage, though, at this point, does Hamas think it has? Wherever Yahya Sinwar is at the moment, you know, are they in a position to keep rejecting these proposals? That's all I ask. Because, you know, before you answer that question, Hal, take a look at this. I think this is quite something. So Israeli officials there, they released the video of the raid there in central Gaza over the weekend as they rescued 4 hostages. So this is literally in the moment, on camera, on the persons of these IDF soldiers who rescued these hostages. And you can see there, it got quite violent and quite deadly, obviously. But does Yahya Sinwar think these raids are just going to stop? Because they're not, right?
They're not. In fact, I've absolutely no doubt that Israel is doing everything it can, leaving no stone unturned, so to speak, looking for hostages. They will continue to do these raids whenever there's the opportunity to execute them. And I think that's going to continue. The problem is getting the intelligence that provides the sort of detailed information they need to get in there and pull something like this off. And there's just a lot of things that have to go well. The problem with this raid in the long run for Israel is they revealed some tactics, techniques, procedures, taking advantage, really using the element of surprise. But now that they've done that once, the Hamas will adjust and be aware of what they're doing. So it makes it more difficult to pull that off a second time. Now, your question is absolutely spot on. There's a report out today that there was a message, communications intercepts of Yahya Sinwar. And basically, he was expressing in so many words that he felt that he had Israel, or Hamas had Israel, right where they needed them. And the inference there is that the body politic of the world, the international opinion, everything was weighing in on Hamas's side. And when you kind of analyze that, you realize in his perception, he could hold off. He could turn down these things because he thinks that eventually there'll be enough pressure from around the world, from the United States, that Israel will concede to what he wants. So when you're asking, what does Yahya Sinwar or what does Hamas think or what's their position, I find that communications intercept, assuming it is accurate, and there's no reason to believe it wasn't accurate, to be very revealing as to the mindset of Hamas and certainly of Yahya Sinwar himself.
Hal, what do you make of the raid? I mean, was it wise for Israel to release this video? I mean, they have been very transparent about the media that they release, very selective, though, as well, about how they conduct this war and how they prosecute this war. So it wasn't necessarily surprising to me that they released this video, but I'm asking you if it was wise. Did they have to do this?
I think it was a smart move on their. First off, from a operational standpoint and from an intelligence standpoint, they want to be able to track in a very sensitive operation like this. They want to be able to track what's going on. They want to see it in real time. They also want to have some sort of historical record of what occurred, because they're going to want to make any corrections in terms of the tactics used or any intelligence that can be gleaned from it. They want to use that. So they memorialize it in video. And I'm sure that once they went through it, and as you see here, I didn't see anything that really revealed anything sensitive that they wouldn't want out there. What I saw was it shows, Israeli commandos doing something rather bold, audacious, and very professional. And that's exactly the message they want to put out. They also want to mitigate the criticism that they've been getting.
Yeah. Hal, just lastly, though, I mean, if all of this finally falls apart yet again, I don't even know how many times it's fallen apart, more than 10, is it going to get back to the table ever? I mean, is it in Israel's interest to keep going back to the table with the U.S., with the Egyptians, with the Qataris? Are they going to get back on the wagon? Is it going to take some time? If the Hamas rejection stands, Why is it in Israel's best interest to keep going back if they know what the outcome is going to be each and every time?
Well, they're going to keep negotiating. They want to keep the conversation going. They want to keep the dialogue going. They want to have that channel of communication with Hamas, and they want to work this. We've said this time and again that what's happening at the negotiating table really is being decided on the battlefield. And as the geography, as the situation on the battlefield changes, as they take more ground, if they get another successful hostage rescue, this will all have huge impact at the negotiations. And there may be a point there where Hamas says yes. The other thing that's kind of burbling in the background, and it's been discussed a lot in the last couple of days, is possible relocation of the remaining Hamas fighters and PIJ fighters to some other location, presumably outside of the immediate region, some other country. I mean, there is precedence. This was done with the PLO when they moved them out of Lebanon in the early 80s. And they're talking about something like that with Hamas. That provides a valve, if you will. That provides an outlet that might presumably lead to some sort of negotiated settlement that Israel could be comfortable with.
Hal, we have a live picture there in Mecca of the Hajj at the moment. Would these Hamas fighters be welcomed in Saudi Arabia, where we're watching this right now, or no?
I don't rule anything out at this point, but I would say that MBS probably would not be thrilled to have these fighters in there, particularly because of their ties to Iran. That would make him very uncomfortable.
All right, Hal Kempfer, we're going to have to leave it at that. We do appreciate all of your insight into these daily updates as we are now 8 months into this war. Hal, thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrew.